Hey, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you might be settling for less than you could be having in your relationship. Less happiness, less fulfillment, less satisfaction. And I want to make sure that you listen to the whole episode today so that you get all of the biggest takeaways and secrets that I have in store for you. Stay tuned. Some people think that to have a good marriage, you have to get really good at letting the little things go. They think that a good partner will look past the little dysfunctions that show up in a marriage and that you just have to ignore the little hurts that get inflicted over time. I mean, what good is marriage if you're constantly talking about stuff that isn't working, right? Now, the science actually says something different. Researchers Gottman, Swanson, and Murray showed that couples who have a low tolerance for negativity in their marriage are actually much happier and more likely to have lasting, satisfying love. In a nutshell, happy couples don't let things build up and fester before addressing them. They call this having a low negativity threshold. Now, you might be thinking, but Nate, constant complaining is bad for your marriage, isn't it? This seems a little bit contradictory. Now, look, I totally get that frame of thinking, so just bear with me for a minute, and I promise I will explain everything to you here. First, I want to start out with a story. So one evening a few weeks ago, my wife and I were in a hurry to get somewhere, and she had made dinner, and then we ate and we left the dishes in the sink. And then the next morning, we both woke up and we had to go to work early, so we ate our breakfast and we left our dishes in the sink. And then that evening, we got home and we began making dinner again, and the mountain of dishes was just growing and growing and growing. And the pile was magnified by the smallness of our kitchen. We don't have a very big one. And eventually, there was just like no space left in the sink. There were no clean dishes, and there was a lot of frustration. Now, my wife, champion that she is, she dug through the pile of dirty utensils and food-covered appliance attachments and dishes to find something that she needed for the food processor. And then I heard her scream out in pain. There was blood everywhere. She had cut her finger on a sharp blade that was buried in the mess of dishes. So she was in pain and she was frustrated and she was overwhelmed. And I was panicking and I was stressed out and I was upset. And all of this emotional tension and the stress and the literal mess and the blood and the pain all could have been avoided if we had just taken a few minutes to manage the mess when it was small, before it turned into a mountain of a problem. We could have cleaned while we cooked. Or we could have scrubbed dishes and thrown them in the dishwasher before leaving the house. Or we could have stayed up a little bit late or woken up a little bit early to make a dent in the pile of dishes that had been accumulating over the last couple of days. We could have hired somebody to come in and help us clean. So the problem that so many couples face is they let the dishes pile up and pile up and pile up until somebody literally just can't take it anymore. And then they get so frustrated or hurt by something small, like a little knife in the sink, that they just snap and they explode and they lash out at their partner. Does that analogy make sense? If not, let me just spell it out to you super clearly so I know that you get it. So all it takes to maintain a clean kitchen or a resentment-free marriage is to take care of the dirty dishes or the small hurts and disappointments and arguments and frustrations when they're manageable, instead of letting them pile up and turn into a massive, unmanageable problem down the road. Now, I know you don't want a messy kitchen, just like I know you don't want a resentful marriage. You want epic love. So now let's talk about how to keep your emotional kitchen clean so that these meltdowns just don't happen. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is that how you start a conflict conversation is probably the most important factor in how that conversation goes. For me, the hardest part about cleaning up the kitchen is starting. Once I make some progress and I wash a plate or put a couple of cups in the dishwasher and get a little bit of momentum going, the cleaning gets way easier. And sometimes it's even fun. And the same is true in the emotional kitchen or inside your relationship. The most important part is simply starting the conversation and starting it in the right way. That is really key. So in his book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, researcher John Gottman talks about the importance of what's called a soft startup. A soft startup is simply a nice or a kind way to begin a conversation about something that's been driving you nuts without picking a fight or pushing your partner to shut down emotionally. The soft startup is all about bringing up the thing that's bugging you in a gracious and kind way so that you can set your partner up to respond to you with the same level of kindness that you're showing them. This helps you to ensure that you tackle conflicts as a partnership instead of the conflict being you against your partner. It should be a tag team of you and your partner versus the problem and versus the negative emotions that you feel about that problem. So let me give you an example. A while back, I got an email from a reader whose partner had a really awkward issue to deal with. And I think it'll make a perfect demonstration of how a soft startup should work. Now, I get that this might sound really silly, but this is a real situation from a real person that's genuinely causing some tension in their marriage. This person's email said, "Hey, my partner's toothbrush smells. I've kept quiet about it for like 3 months, and I know I'd want to know if I were in his shoes. How do I talk to him about this?" Now, a harsh startup might sound like this. "Holy crap, I cannot take it anymore. Your toothbrush is disgusting. How can you not smell that? It makes me nauseous every morning when I walk in the bathroom. Don't you have any respect? Your breath is nasty." Now, nobody in their right mind would react positively to that. But that is how it typically sounds when you let conflict fester and build until you can't stand it anymore. That's how you typically bring it up, with that big burst of emotion and accusations. Now, the reality is that when you start a conversation with accusations or anger or frustration or some sort of aggression, you're not going to get what you want. You'll just end up with a fight. Now, let's try a soft startup. That might sound something like this. "Hey, babe, can I talk to you about something that makes me a little uncomfortable?" So first step, asking for permission is a great place to start. "I just noticed recently that your toothbrush has a really strong smell and it's kind of grossing me out. I don't want to embarrass you at all, but I wanted to bring it up because I'd want to know if I was in your shoes." So this is obviously, just a little side note, coming from a place of kindness and not criticism. So good, soft way to like bring up the conversation back into the statement. So would you mind picking up a new toothbrush on your way home from work? So notice that this is a request instead of a complaint about something that they're doing wrong. It's a request to help them solve the problem rather than a complaint about the problem that has been happening in the past that they have no control over. Then you can end up by saying something like, "Hey, thank you so much for being so understanding. Gratitude is always a good touch. This was a hard thing for me to bring up, and I really, really love you." Boom. Do you see the difference there? Suddenly, a potential complaint or an attack is turned into an easy, even though it might be a little awkward, conversation. Thanks, soft startup. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the importance of maintaining high expectations. Now, have you ever heard an unhappily married person say something like, "The best way to avoid disappointment is to always have low expectations"? Man, I hate that. Sounds to me like it's time to bust another marriage myth. Low expectations do not equate to a happy marriage. Research actually shows that couples who have high expectations for their marriage are actually happier. Part of maintaining a low negativity threshold for your relationship is being committed to putting out the small emotional fires before they ever grow into raging infernos that can wreak havoc on your marriage. Here's some statistical proof that will blow your mind. So researchers Notarius and Bongiorno, something like this, they're Italian researchers. They found out in 1995 that the average amount of time that a married couple waits to get professional help from the time that one of them detects a serious problem in their marriage and becomes unhappy because of it is 6 years. 6 years. Countless couples literally just sit in the misery and anxiety and the tension of a conflict for the better part of a decade before saying, "Hey, something here isn't going very well. Maybe we should get some help." Holy crap, it is no wonder that 50% of first-time divorces happen in the first 7 years of marriage. Most likely in that first year, they bump into a problem and then they let it fester for 6 years. And then in that 7th year, they just decide to call it off. This relationship destruction happens because people would rather adapt to more conflict and anxiety and stress and unkindness than simply repair the emotional wounds inflicted in the relationship. So, if you don't want a marriage that's full of grudges and resentment and festering emotional wounds and regrets and fighting and sadness, you've got to raise the bar for yourself. You cannot settle. You have to have the hard conversations with respect and with kindness. If you feel like you're stuck having the same arguments over and over and over again, you should ask for some help. I know a guy that you can ask. He's super cool and he loves helping people create epic marriages. It's me. If you want to be successful in your marriage, you cannot lower your expectation for what is acceptable. This is the work that makes epic love possible. This is the work that the top 1% of marriages do, and they do not settle. The next iteration of the Epic Wives Experiment is just around the corner. We are going to kick things off on Monday, September 14th. And I want to invite you right now to come join the ranks of nearly 1,000 women who have completed this program in the last year with extraordinary results. It's an amazing 30-day program for wives who are feeling stressed out, overwhelmed, like they've got a lot going on, and they just haven't been able to tap into that fun, vibrant, flirty, not anxious side of themselves for a while. Now, because you've listened to the end of this episode, I want to let you in on a little secret. There's a way for you to get a pretty hefty discount for this iteration of the Epic Wives Experiment. I wanted to make it available to as many people as possible. So if you're interested in participating and you want a discount, keep listening. So here's how it works. You go to epicmarriageclub.com and you sign up. And during the checkout process, you get an option to sign up for the Epic Wives Experiment at a discount. Now, there's a cool twist involved in this. When you sign up for the Epic Marriage Club, it's like $15 if you sign up month to month, or $8 a month if you sign up for the entire year up front. And I'm going to be donating $15 for every person who signs up to a family or a couple in our community who really needs help. And on top of that, I found another local business who's willing to match my donation. So not only do you get a discount to the Epic Wives Experiment when you sign up for the Epic Marriage Club, but all of your first month's tuition doubled is going to be going to a family who is in need. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are suffering and struggling right now. There's a lot of crappy stuff going on in the world. And my hope is that this is a great way for you to give back and to get something for your generosity and for investing in your marriage. My goal is to rid the world of mediocre love, and that includes both marriages, and it includes adding a little bit more love to the people who might be suffering and going through some tough stuff in the world right now. So go to epicmarriageclub.com, sign up. On the checkout process, you'll get an opportunity to sign up for the Epic Wives Experiment at a discount. Otherwise, you can just go to epicwivesexperiment.com and sign up for full price. That's a great way to do it as well. And I will see you in the Epic Wives Experiment. It's going to be another amazing, amazing experience.